welcome. Today we're going to be doing piratey stuff. And if you're wondering why there's a big stain on my shirt and why my teeth look like this, it's because I wanted to be historically accurate. So I got some dye and I put it in my mouth, but then I spilled it all over myself. But I decided, who cares, let's just go for it anyway. But why was I doing that? It's because I finished reading a book recently called The Wager, in which I have learned that seamen, after spending months on boats eating nothing but salt beef, would often get like this condition called scurvy. When you get scurvy, it's like you're rotting from the inside out, and it's caused by a lack of vitamins. But of course at the time they had no idea what caused it. They just knew that there was something on the land that was vital to the well-being and survival of people. And so in the book it says that like they were just trying things out, and one of the things that they tried was like when people got sick they would bury them up to the neck in soil, hoping that would take the disease away. But it didn't work. But anyway, that is not what this video is about. This video is about me making an outfit for my husband, Walter Keane, who's a musician and who does all the sound and music for my videos. He had to do a gig and he wanted to look cool, so we decided to create this little costume for him. And we decided that he needed a shirt, a pair of flippy trousers, a tailcoat, some cool boots, and a mask. And that's the shirt. So pretend you have not seen it so you can still be surprised during the reveal, okay? And basically his request for an outfit happened just around the time where I discovered the YouTube channel of Mikara Churros, who's like an amazing like sewist. And she inspired me to get my sewing machine out of retirement. And I decided that this should be my first project back into the sewing world. So I don't have the skills to make a tailcoat or trousers yet, so we decided to just acquire that. But then the rest will be my challenge to undertake. So come along if you want to watch me make the other stuff, which is the shirt, the boot covers, and the mask. Thank you! The first thing I got is this black velvety top that I found in my stash of fabric. I bought it a few years ago because I thought that maybe one day I would need some black velvet for something. And it turned out that I was right. I got my husband to try it on, and I realized that I could actually use it as well as the pattern for the base of the shirt. So, after looking like under the bed and downstairs for the fabric, I did not find anything. And we went to a charity shop and I forgot to film it because I'm not used to doing the vlogging thing yet. But I found this. It's got some little patterns on it, and at first I was like, ugh, I don't like it. But it's actually quite cute. So we're gonna make the shirt out of this. So I layered it all out on the fabric and cut around the edges, leaving about 1/2 inch seam allowance. I didn't want the V-neck, so I just rounded the collar. There are two types of necks I really don't like on tops: V-necks and turtlenecks. Like when you see somebody wearing a V-neck, you just like know that they like sports, and people wearing turtlenecks, it seemed like they try to appear like really intelligent, but if they really were intelligent, they would realize that it looks like the head is just floating over a nail-sized jumper. So anyway, I did the same with the back panel and found myself in need of sleeves. So naturally I went to Mikara's video for inspiration, and she delivered. I got the shape that I wanted by mixing the top of the sleeve of the Renaissance dress and the bottom of the sleeve of the 18th century gown that she made.
Now cut out some gigantic floopy sleeves.
After my first attempt, I realized that I made the sleeve a little too short, and I was quite bummed out, but my cat came to give me some affection, and I made it all better. Fortunately, I had just enough fabric to make the two sleeves again, so I got on to doing that. Mr. Pitty was not satisfied with the amount of affection he got earlier, so we cuddled and played a bit more as I finished cutting the last sleeve. Then I cut a slit in the middle of the front panel and hand-basted the edges to stop the fabric from fraying. The internet told me I should reinforce the bottom of the V, but I didn't feel like doing that, so I didn't. You gotta take some risks in life. And I know what you're thinking, but Juliette, you just made a V-neck. Don't worry, the ribbon and the grommets are gonna correct that. Okay, I'm going to look for some thread in the basement, which is gross. I think it's here. There's some elastic. I was looking for. What's in here? Oh, yes. Right. We've got it. Whoop. Okay, now I need to get out. Back home. Okay, so I've set up my sewing machine. And it's plugged in here, and I have to see if it actually works because it's been a while. So let's turn on the plug. Yep. And then let's see. It's working. Okay, so now I have to figure out what I'm doing. I started by attaching the front and back panel together, then sewing along the length of the sleeves and did the hems on everywhere they needed a hem. Before attaching the sleeves, I had to create a gava at the top to make them fit into the armholes and create a little puffy effect. To do that, I used the sewing machine to sew a straight line along the edge without tying the ends, and then I pulled on the thread to let the fabric bunch together. With this type of fabric, it was not really fun to do, but I liked the way it looked in the end. So I just went back to the charity shop to get like some white or beige shoelace to put in the like little thingy there for the jacket, the shirt. And they were all gone. Like, I went there just a few hours ago and there was loads. But apparently somebody who loves shoelaces just went and they took them all. So I had to settle for like some brown one and some ribbon. And we'll see if that works. Then I sewn some elastic at the bottom of the sleeves and I was done. I just added some grommets and a little ribbon to finish the top. The next step I was really excited for, the boot covers. I really like boots in general, like this is literally the only thing I wear, whatever the weather. I have a health condition that makes me extremely accident prone, and I've twisted my ankles more times than I can count, so I don't feel safe if my shoes are not hugging my calves. I found this pair of wellies in the charity shop, and they were just perfect. I removed the soles first and then sliced off a nice little chunk at the top to use later. Then I cut the back along the seam and repeated the process for the other boot. After a little fooling around, I got to the part that I thought was going to be really fun, the grommets. I got this little machine, like tool, that puts them really easily. And it worked great on the test that I did, so I thought everything was going good. But then, when I tried to do it on the actual boots, the little back pieces kept falling off and I didn't really understand why. After like trying and trying again, I realized that the material on the parts of the boots that I was trying to go through was a little thicker, and that's why like the thing was not attaching itself to each other. So I decided to get my craft knife and like shave off a little piece of the material, and I did some of that. And then my husband came to say hello, how do you do? And I showed him like what I was doing, and he asked me, oh, have you cut yourself yet? And I said no, and then he left. And then I cut myself, like straight away, just after he left. And it was like instant karma. Like the universe telling me, ha, you think you're in charge? Well, you're not. Just like the day when I broke both my elbows at the same time. But that's a story for another video. After I sucked the blood off my thumb, I finished putting all the grommets and I was really happy with how it looked. So then I went on to the next stage, which was attaching the little thing that I cut off, like the little chunk that I cut off of the top. Turn it around upside down and stick it to the top to make it look like a nice finished boot. And I decided to use the glue gun for that. And I know that the glue gun has its uses, but it just never works out for me. I tried, and every time I try using it, I use it with like material that actually you cannot stick with the glue gun. And it's really frustrating. And I, of course, didn't realize that until after I burnt off all my fingers. So I was pretty annoyed by that point. And then I just decided to use some, what's it called? The one that stick your finger together forever. Super glue. I used super glue and it was not the best, but it worked. So that's what I did. Well, a lot of looking funny now. Hey, I kind of love these. I should just make boot covers. Wow. But then I needed to get some laces to put in the back to tie it and make them snug around the leg. So I went back to the charity shop because I saw that they had a bucket full of shoelaces and I got some. And I got a few different types to try, like to see what look I like the best. There was some like kind of leathery ones that were quite thick and they look kind of cool, but I didn't like the look of them when they were on the boot, so I decided for just like basic nylon ones that are more flexible as well. Then I needed something to go like under the boot to attach to the shoe so that the boot cover would not like flap around, it would just stay snug to the foot. And I found this elastic band that came from like a GoPro like head thingy. And it was good because it was like quite stretchy, but also it had like a grip on it, and I thought it would be great that it would not move around on the shoe. So I cut that up and I just sewn it around the holes that I made. And I also spent an awful long time making the mask out of the velvet. Like I hand sewed literally everything and it took me a whole 3 days to like finish. But in the end, I just didn't like how it looked. Like my husband actually wore it for the gig and it just kept sliding off his face and it seemed really uncomfortable. And so we decided that for the costume to be finished, we'll just like get something from the internet because mine was just too flimsy. So yeah. Time for the reveal. So thank you for watching. I hope you had fun and see you next time.